Hey everybody and welcome. This is Peace News Now. We are live this Tuesday, August 12th, 2014. It's 10 p.m. here in Keene in the Shire where I'm broadcasting. We've also got special guest Davi Barker of ShinyBadges.com on the line and Bitcoin.com, of course. Davi, good to be with you.
How's it going?
It's awesome. It's even more awesome that you're joining me tonight. It's always fun to have you on board, and we might even be visited by Bitcoin Bell.
I heard that rumor.
Yep, it could happen. Anything could happen. Speaking of crazy things that could happen, was the AR-15 banned? Well, a federal judge has ruled them dangerous and unusual, saying they're not protected by the Second Amendment. We'll get to that story. Plus, anonymous.
Does the Second Amendment not include unusual things?
Yes, it's an asterisk that was
the right to bear arms, excluding unusual arms.
What if they're unusual? That's Samuel Colt. We're not sure about that guy. He makes some unusual items. The anonymous group in Ferguson, Missouri, have submitted a press release and created a website, operationferguson.cf, and they have a video explaining what happened to that poor young man in Ferguson, Missouri, plus a march of American Muslims marching on the Saudi embassy, protesting extremism. I love it. We've got that story, all and more. But first, let's get to the anonymous press release. This is a story of show about peaceful resistance, and we want to focus on that. We also invite your calls, so you can dial into the show by dialing Hi-Fi CivDis. That number is 443-424-8347. Oh yeah, and you can watch this show at PeaceNewsNow.com/live, where there's a chat room built into the webpage. You can also watch the cam feed. And we're going to just bring you as much peaceful resistance news as these hours can fit. So without further ado, reading from pastebin.com, where anonymous Operation Ferguson writes, a little over 24 hours ago in Ferguson, Missouri, that was written August 10th on Sunday. The Ferguson Police Department shot an unarmed teen 6 times and killed him. He was left to die in a pool of blood in sweltering heat for hours while the police militarized the area against protesters and attempted to concoct a reasonable story as to why they snatched this innocent life for no reason. St. Louis County Sheriff's Department even sealed the roads, leaving Ferguson in a vain attempt to prevent protesters from reaching the city. His name was Mike Brown. He was 17. That's weird. I have read reports that he was 18. That's interesting. And he would have started college next week. Instead, his family is struggling to come up with funeral costs. Tragic. There's more to the story, but you can read it yourself. I turn now to the Operation Ferguson video. Let's watch this and then talk about it.
The 18-year-old male victim had no weapon on him, and he had his hands up in the air, but was still shot by police multiple times.
Little anonymous logo there, so you know it's official.
Greetings world, we are anonymous. On August 9th in Ferguson, Missouri, the 17-year-old and unarmed Mike Brown was shot several times and killed by an officer of the Ferguson Police Department. His body was left to lie in a pool of blood in the sweltering heat for hours while 15 police departments militarized the area against protesters, sealed the roads leading to Ferguson in a vain attempt to prevent protesters from reaching the city. The police has clearly crossed a line in the sand. For this reason, Anonymous will not be satisfied this time, as we have in the past, with simply obtaining justice for this young man and his family. Anonymous demands that the congressional representatives and senators from Missouri introduce legislation entitled Mike Brown's Law that will set strict national standards for police conduct and misbehavior in the USA. To the good people of Ferguson, take heart, and take your streets. You are not alone. We will support you in every way possible. Occupy every square inch of your city. Demand justice. Staying silent today could result in the death of your kid tomorrow. To to the Ferguson Police Department and any other jurisdictions who are deployed to the protests. We are watching you very closely. If you abuse, harass, or harm in any way the protesters in Ferguson, we will take every web-based asset of your departments and governments offline. That is not a threat, it is a promise. Attacking the protesters will result in the release of personal information on every single member of the Ferguson Police Department, as well as any other jurisdiction that participates in the abuse of this state's own law. We will seize all your databases and email pools and dump them on the internet. This is your first and last warning. The time has come for more than simple justice for these atrocities. The time has come to draw a line in the sand. The time has come to bring those to justice who serve to protect us, not kill us. Until justice prevails, hack and protest will replace it. Operation Ferguson engaged. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Ferguson, expect us.
Okay, so that's the video. Anonymous. The URL on that, or the, I don't know, the group is Anon Insiders on YouTube. That's the channel name. I'm skeptical, and you heard me booing over the video. That was the part where Anonymous voice was suggesting there be some new law, Mike Brown's law. And this new law, you see, is going to make the police follow their own rules. They're going to behave now that there's this new law. See,
Who's going to enforce the law?
I mean, duh. This Ferguson, I mean, I'm really happy with Anonymous. I want to like them, but there's so often, I mean, first of all, there's no like one organization that you can call anonymous, so it's tough to even like assign blame or congratulations for any given action. But this one stinks. They should just come out with the information about the police department. They should just do what they're going to do. Like if there was some misconduct, like the police left him in the street for hours. So, you know, report on that. Do what Anonymous does, right? Dig up the dirt on the local police department and publish it. You know, what's keeping them from doing that? They don't need some new law for accountability. They are accountability. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I
don't know. I feel like these things are so common now. Like everyone has seen them now. Like there was a time not so long ago when nobody had heard of an event like this, and now I don't know if it's because they're occurring more frequently or because they're better documented. Probably a combination of both. Mm-hmm. Everybody has heard a story like this, and it's becoming much harder to sustain the officer-friendly belief, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the officers do not look friendly. It's hard to, yeah, I don't know. Well, here's their website. This is what Operation Ferguson looks like, according to the anonymous group. This is at operationferguson.cf, and I think it's kind of cool. So there's some good aspects of this activism. Like they made the video that explains what happened to the young guy. They've got links to press releases. They've got a Twitter account, an email address, like lots of connectivity. This is all good stuff. The law part stinks. They didn't think that one through. That's really stupid. So I don't know. That's my commentary on this activism. Good job, but not all the way.
Yes, so close.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Anonymous has a tendency to go after the people in power directly, either by like shutting down their website or releasing their personal information or things like that. It makes me wonder if Anonymous gets interested in police brutality as an issue, like what sort of attacks do you do on a police officer from the internet?
Well, you publish you publish information about what they do. There's plenty of like Facebook pages and Police One blogs for Anonymous to scour through and publish information about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's what they would do. That's what the police hate the most is public accountability, right? They're always trying
to
be
identified as individuals is what they hate the most.
Right, because we don't know the name of this officer who shot this 18-year-old boy just 3 days later. That's something that we would typically know if this was a regular murder. All right, we're going to talk more peaceful resistance news when we come back. This is Peace News Now.
When I found the Free State Project...
Oops, I muted myself too. Yeah. How you been, Davi?
I'm all right. How about you?
I've been very busy. Been great. Happy. I caved on my my registration. Totally stinks. I broke down and got a New Hampshire registration. Wasn't trying to do that, but I did.
Okay. How's the concealed carry permit going?
You know, that's weird too. So I got a lawyer back a few weeks ago, and retained him, paid, and everything. He sent a letter to the court being like, "We are appealing. This is ridiculous." And he sent me a copy of the letter, and the court has 14 days to set a date, to like set a court date, and I think that date has to be within those 14 days. So like this is, as a shall issue state, this is a very serious thing when you're denied a gun carry.
Yeah.
So they're like, whoa, we have to rush this. If you're denied and you're appealing, like, we have to handle this right away. But they're not handling it right away. They're kind of ignoring it. I haven't gotten a response back from them yet, and I should have one by now. So, I mean, what, did they forfeit? I don't really know. I'm going to talk with my lawyer about it tomorrow and let the internet know. Like,
well, if they're not following their rules, I mean, obviously something's wrong.
Yeah, but they never follow their own rules, so
that's sort of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of weird. So, like, oh yeah, I'll show a video. There's darn it, I hope I saved that. It's called "Live Free or in Massachusetts," and it's a video about concealed carry stuff. Darn, I said I was gonna show it, and when I talk about the concealed carry stuff, let me look it up. Other than that, I saw those hats that you were looking at that say USA. I don't think that's so bad. I don't think people have thought about it. Yeah.
I'm gonna get one of them, and I'm gonna see if I can cut that material out or something like that. I'm not sure. It bothers me enough. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's worth taking a knife and just trying to cut it out.
It's hard to turn down a $1 hat, though.
Wow, that is a good price. Make that money. So, okay, yeah, I've got a little cartoon video we're going to watch. What is it like trying to purchase a firearm in a state like Massachusetts? I think that will be a nice segue for the federal judge who ruled AR-15s dangerous and unusual. What? Live free in Massachusetts. Oh, man, last night's Freedom Fiends scared the pants off of me because we had...
I heard Whit called.
Yeah, Whit called, and like typically, I enjoy his calls. Calls into PeaceNewsNow pretty regularly now at the end of the show, and we have good dialogue, like productive, meaningful conversations about war or libertarianism or whatever. And this time was not that. It was like, I don't know if he was just up too late, past his bedtime or whatever, but he was like rambling about Saddam Hussein, and we hadn't even brought up Saddam Hussein on the show, but he said that LRN is all just one long show, and I was like thinking to myself, yeah, but this is on the radio, and like people don't know what LRN even is, so you kind of have to treat each show like, you know, it's its own thing.
I get the impression that he sometimes thinks the hosts are all one big, long host, because he'll often accuse people on one show of saying things that other people said.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We're talking behind the scenes about last night's Freedom Fiends episode. It got lively because I was hosting, and we normally don't take calls on the show, but I decided to open up those phone lines. What the hell? What could go wrong? It all went wrong. We had a caller, affectionately known to some as Whit, known to me as James in Arizona, but he called in, and it was frightening for me. I had to dump his call in the middle of him speaking because he was rambling about stuff that just was off topic. And LRN, the Liberty Radio Network, where this show is broadcast, is a terrific place for liberty-oriented content, but not every show that airs on LRN is only on LRN, and so people listening will have no idea what you're talking about if you reference it or say that it's all just one long show or that all the hosts are the same. So yeah, that was weird. And then Michael Dean called in, and he blew my mind because I started feeling like I was tripping, seriously. Like something about the headphones and the effects he was using was like, whoa, am I on another planet right now? Like, what is happening? I'm supposed to be hosting a show, and like, I didn't even know what was going on. He was massaging my brain from my eardrums. It was really weird. So there's that. You can watch this show over at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. Call in, Skype in, PeaceNewsNow, 443-424-8347. Now, we'll turn our attention to a federal judge who has, just today, this story from GunSaveLives.net. In what looks to be a terrible ruling for Maryland gun owners, a federal judge has essentially ruled that guns that were regulated by the state of Maryland last year, including AR-15s and AK-style rifles, as well as some other magazine-fed semi-autos, fall outside Second Amendment protection as dangerous and unusual firearms. Here's the photograph of the woman who made this decision. Look at her smiling, all happy, gun grabber. Yay! Taking guns away from people with a smile. According to the 47-page opinion by U.S. District Judge Catherine C. Blake. So that's Catherine C. Blake over here. What else we got? The case in question is Colby et al. V. O'Malley et al., which named numerous plaintiffs, including the Associated Gun Clubs of Baltimore, Maryland, Licensed Firearms Dealers Association, Maryland State Rifle and Pistol Association, the National Short Shooting Sports Foundation, among others. Upon review of all the parties' evidence, the court seriously doubts that this is her words? Yeah, here are some of Blake's other comments. Upon review of all parties' evidence, the court seriously doubts that the banned assault long guns are commonly possessed for lawful purposes, particularly self-defense in the home, which is at the core of the Second Amendment right, and is inclined to find the weapons fall outside Second Amendment protections as dangerous and unusual. So apparently that is some sort of Second Amendment protection, that they can't be unusual or dangerous. I don't know what gun isn't dangerous, though. I don't get how that would be some disqualifier.
Or any gun that isn't unusual at the time of the writing of the Second Amendment.
Right. Yeah. Think about all the guns that exist now. All of them would be unusual to the founders. First, the court is not persuaded that assault weapons are commonly possessed based on the absolute number of these weapons owned by the public. Well, that's weird, because like, how would they even know how many are owned by the public?
So what they mean by unusual is actually how many are owned per capita?
I guess so, yeah.
So that would be a moratorium on all new firearms.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you couldn't design a new firearm and then immediately reach market saturation. It would have to start with a small sort of fan base or whatever.
I think the way most gun-grabbing judges look at guns is just like, well, they're all Glocks. You just make a new Glock every year. You know, you just picture the most standard-looking gun that you see in movies and just say, well, just keep cranking them out. We don't need any improvements in those. We don't need any innovation. We'll just keep cranking out the same old-looking guns. The ones that aren't scary. And don't make them black. Even accepting that there are, this is from Blake, the judge, the gun-grabbing judge says, even accepting that there are 8.2 million assault weapons in the civilian gun stock, as the plaintiffs claim, assault weapons represent no more than 3% of the current civilian gun stock, and ownership of those weapons is highly concentrated in less than 1% of the U.S. population. So because less than 1% of the U.S. has these things, they're not protected by the Second Amendment. That's really weird logic. The court is also not persuaded by the plaintiff's claims that assault weapons are used infrequently in mass shootings and murders of law enforcement officers. But that's true. Why is the court not persuaded by that claim? Assault weapons are used.
It doesn't support the position they've already decided on. That's why they're not persuaded by it.
Oh yes. Oh right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. The available statistics indicate that assault weapons are used disproportionately to their ownership in the general public, and furthermore cause more injuries and more fatalities when they are used. As for their claims that assault weapons are well suited for self-defense, the plaintiffs offer no evidence beyond their desire to possess assault weapons for self-defense in the home.
Why isn't that enough?
I mean,
I own a sword for self-defense, and that's the only evidence I've ever presented is that I want to own a sword for self-defense. So,
yeah,
I've never had to use it. I've taken some classes. I vaguely know how to use it, but I've never had to use it in a self-defense scenario. So I don't have any other evidence that it's a good tool for that.
Well, Blake says that this is not evidence that they are in fact commonly used or possessed for that purpose. So you have your sword to go attack people.
Defend. I've never attacked anybody.
Yeah, but it's unusual to have a sword in the home for self-defense. So
it's pretty unusual to use an assault weapon for assault too.
It's an assault sword.
I'm just saying. Like, less than 1% of the population owns an assault rifle for the purpose of assaulting people, whatever assault rifle means.
Yeah, what does it mean? I don't even use that term, assault weapons. I think
Yeah, I don't use it either because it doesn't have a clear definition, which sort of it troubles me that this is a legal case and a judge is using it so indiscriminately.
Yeah, it seems like she's not even aware that this is like a term invented by the gun grabbers to make certain guns look scary. I mean, there's great visualizations of a regular musket like you would see from the 1700s or whatever, and then the AR-15 or AK-47 rifles, and like you put them side by side, and there's like subtle differences between them, but really they have the same caliber, the same firepower between these two different rifles. And it's ridiculous that one would be banned. It's just a totally emotional argument. And well, let's finish up with her quote here. Blake's comments. Finally, despite the plaintiff's claims that they would like to use assault weapons for defense purposes, assault weapons are military-style weapons designed for offensive use and are equally, or possibly even more effective in functioning and killing capacity than their fully automatic versions. This is Peace News Now. What a wacko. She's so wrong.
It's like people don't understand the difference between physics and intent. Like, a gun isn't designed for offense or defense. A gun is designed to take a measure of metal and propel it at a particular speed, right? It's all physics. Like, it's designed from an engineering standpoint. Like, the intent of the tool is in the mind of the purchaser or the user of the thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I imagine a lot of this, like, gun grabbing is covering your ass. Like, it's judges saying, well, I better ban it. Like, I don't know. Okay, you're a judge, and you have to decide, should I ban this thing or not? Or should I say people can have it or not? They view that as, like, endorsement. So if this judge in Maryland was like, oh, yeah, AK-47s and AR-15s are fine, all the upset nanny-staters would be like, get this judge out of office. She's trying to hurt our children. She wants more gun owners. And, like, I don't know. Even though that's not really what she would be doing by saying, yes, you have a right to defend yourself with a weapon, I just think she would see it as endorsement. So that's why she probably makes a decision to be, like, nanny statist. I don't know. I don't understand what's in the minds of these people. First of all, they have to be lawyers first before they become judges. So you know they're already ingrained within the system. And they're authoritarians.
And you also don't necessarily know that they're any better educated about law than the average person who's paying attention. Because, like, my wife is a lawyer, and a lot of her friends are lawyers. And I come to them with legal questions, like based on the things that I hear from activists and people on Free Talk Live and things like that. I'm like, what do you think of this legal concept, jury nullification? And it's blank stares. They'd never heard of it, right? So, like, it's a level of expertise. It's not that being a lawyer makes you an expert. You have to focus on the topic.
That is a good point. I had a weird conversation with a lawyer recently. I was doing Don't Take the Plea Deal outreach here in Keene, and one of the lawyers who prosecuted me walked by, and I joked to him. I was like, "Oh, hi, David. How you doing today?" And he's like, "Oh, good. What are you doing?" And I said, "Handing out Don't Take the Plea Deal flyers, encouraging people to refuse the deal." He said, "Oh, I'm offering some deals today." Like, I don't know, snake oil salesman type, like almost grabbed suspenders, like, "Oh, I've got something to offer you," you know? And it was weird, but we laughed, and he said that, like, you know, the plea deal can be right for some. It can reduce the amount of time that some people have to spend in jail. And to his credit, he was one of the most willing to negotiate of the 3 prosecutors that I spoke with for charges. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Talking to a lawyer. I don't like to do that, but sometimes it's a good experience. Hey, I spoke with Rich Paul recently, too. He mailed a bunch of letters. He's been great. He's been really great. He's reading the local newspaper. He's writing letters to the editor all the time. He's writing lots of letters to other people. He always could use more letters, so if you're thinking of him one day, you can send him one. All right, we're back.
12963. Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Welcome back. It's Peace News Now. We're talking about gun grabbers, not just in Maryland, but all over. We turn our attention to Massachusetts, where a hilarious video has been posted by a group called Reality Always Wins. And the title of the video is Live Free, or in Massachusetts, a reference to the live free or die mentality of New Hampshire. So that is our neighbor to the south, and I am so grateful not to live there. You know, if I were to want to go shooting here in New Hampshire, all I would have to do is pick up a gun and find a place to shoot and just go and shoot. That's not a crime, as long as I'm like 300 feet away from a house or something like that. I would normally go to a range, though.
So it's like smoking cigarettes in California.
Yes, unfortunately. But no, it's pretty free here, and even though I've been recently denied my concealed carry license, as some listeners are familiar, I could still carry a gun. I could still open carry. I could still go to a shooting range and all that stuff. But in Massachusetts, I would need to pay $100 a year just for the privilege of bringing a gun down to go shooting. Ridiculous. So, like, I have friends in Massachusetts who have guns, who, you know, I would want to go shooting with. If I want to go visit them, $100. So, I mean, am I going to pay $100 to the state of Massachusetts for the privilege of shooting a gun on their territory? And how did they acquire that territory? How is it legitimately owned? It's not. Anyway,
well, they killed the people who lived there before.
Oh yeah, that's legit. Well, here's the video from Reality Always Wins. I think it's instructive and funny. Take a look.
Hi, I'd like to exercise my right to keep and bear arms by purchasing a sidearm.
Sorry, sir, but you're going to have to wait several months, and even then you might not be able to purchase the gun that you want.
Several months and I can't get what I want? Are you kidding? Oh no, here comes the bureaucrat from the coffee shop.
You can apply for an FID, which is shall issue for non-large capacity rifles, or an LTCB, which is may issue for large capacity rifles and non-large capacity handguns, but not for concealed carry, and then also an LTCA, which is for large capacity handguns and large capacity rifles, which is again may issue. And where the license can have further restrictions on the LTCA, such as employment, target and hunting, sporting, none, or where you may or may not concealed carry, or any other arbitrary restriction that the issuing authority may want.
What did you just say?
You need to apply for permission to do pretty much anything with a firearm in the state.
So if I apply for this license, the state has to give it to me because it's my right, right?
Of course not. You see, police chiefs in each town get to determine if you're suitable, and they can arbitrarily place restrictions on your license or not grant you one at all. And if you don't like it, you get to pay for the attorney's fees to try to sue for a right that you were born with.
Wait, so my rights could be respected if I lived in one town, but if I moved, say, one town over, I could potentially lose them if the chief doesn't like me?
Well, we like to refer to them as privileges, because it's easier to defend how we trample all over them.
So how long does the chief have to make a decision about my license application?
Well, the law says 40 days, but in reality they can take as long as they want.
Well, what happens to the chief if the chief doesn't obey the law and fails to give me an answer in 40 days?
Nothing.
Well, then what would happen to me if I don't obey the law and choose to exercise my right to keep and bear arms without the license?
Well, then you'd go to jail.
How the hell is that fair?
Fair? You live in Massachusetts. You also have to deal with Attorney General regulations that block the sale of firearms that are perfectly legal in other states but not in Mass, arbitrary magazine size restrictions, a separate Executive Office of Public Safety list which decides for you which guns are safe enough for you to use and which aren't unless you're a police officer who can purchase one of these non-compliant guns at a dealer, or you could purchase one at an exorbitant markup from someone who moved into the state that already had one in their possession. Plus, a ban on cosmetic features of guns made after an arbitrary date, so-called safe storage requirements that make it more difficult to access your firearm in the case of an emergency, ammo storage permit requirements, and last but not least, a Supreme Judicial Court which thinks that your right to keep and bear arms isn't a personal right, but a collective one, whatever that means. But remember, you have the right to keep and bear arms.
Okay, fine. It looks like I'll just buy some pepper spray for now.
You need a license to carry for that as well.
Okay, what can I actually buy today?
See this flintlock? You can buy that. It's cutting-edge 18th century technology.
Forget this. I'm moving to a free state. This is insane.
Do you have a license to move?
Go suck on a pickle.
Cool, that was fun. I like their video. That was good.
Yeah,
Well,
that was good.
You know, and it was my second time watching it. It gives me hope that it's like the first time I was like just a tee-hee, that was funny, good video. But now the second time watching, I'm like, this gives me hope for a free future because people who create funny cartoon videos are way smarter and way cooler than any bureaucrat or politician who comes up with endless rules for everyone to live by, or else they get sent to the rape rooms. And people are going to see how ridiculous that is, that like there's just some nerd in a, you know, with a pocket protector saying, you can't do that, and then somehow you get thrown in a rape room for exercising your freedom to defend yourself, and then this guy in the video, he's not a scary dude. The people who are going to follow the laws and be like, okay, what can I do? What am I allowed to do? What forms do I need to fill out? Who do I have to pay for permission to exercise my rights? They're not the scary criminals that these bureaucrats are afraid of. So they're not even working. They're not protecting
I
anyone.
don't think the bureaucrats are afraid of scary criminals. I think the bureaucrats just like the people to be afraid of scary criminals. I think the bureaucrats just like having their T's crossed and their I's dotted and their boxes checked and their paperwork filled out.
Wow. You know, that's a good point. I never really realized that. I sort of thought that the bureaucrats, like, they like to... I just assume that they like to restrict people's gun ownership, but you're right. It's probably more just a gleeful paperwork exercise.
I think it's some sort of like psychological, like a feeling of completion when the form is all pristine and done and can go in the right slot. I think that they get a sort of weird sort of sense of accomplishment when a form is filled out.
Because, like, I experienced that in school. Like, if I were trained just slightly differently, if my upbringing had been a little different, I might be one of these gun-grabbing bureaucrat neo-Nazis who's, you know, like, in school, I liked filling out these papers and having everything perfect and, like, was a real perfectionist about following all the rules. It was really, once I got out of high school, that I realized all of that was pointless, that I got really mad at like all of these rules that I had followed that were just, you know, made no sense. They were totally pointless.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I didn't end up like that guy in the video, but I think we're all gonna live free because of things like that video. So that's exciting. So also, you could just move to New Hampshire or move to some place where you'll have more freedoms automatically, unless you're me and then you'll get restricted, like was also referenced in that video by the police chief, who can just say,
He just doesn't like you.
yeah. And then it was pretty funny. I missed it the first time, but he's like, well, what if he doesn't respond within 40 days? What happens to him? Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, that's what's happened to me. The government, so-called, has 14 days to respond or schedule some hearing for my concealed carry appeal, and they haven't done that. So, what do I do now? They said no after I asked permission, and then they say, but you can appeal. And then I appealed, and they ignored that. So it's been ridiculous. This is like the third time that I've asked the city of Keene's permission to conceal carry a gun, which is just the ability to put the gun that I can already wear on my hip in my pocket. And it's important because it's becoming winter, and people are like, well, why don't you just open carry? Why do you need to conceal carry? It's better to open carry anyway. It makes a bigger statement, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, but if I'm walking around open carrying and it's cold out, I want to put on a jacket, suddenly I'm carrying.
Right.
So
it would be an interesting thing. I don't know what it would take to put these two things side by side and compare them, but I'd like to compare the psychological profile of the person who the government says cannot possess a firearm, and compare that to the entry requirements for the military, and see whether or not they would arm the people that they say are not safe to own a firearm.
Wait, that's really interesting, because I'll bet they are looking for those kinds of people. Like, they want the gun crazy. They want the murderers.
Yeah, for sure.
That's who they're arming. But you're saying in civilian life, the government wouldn't want to arm those people at all.
Right.
No, that's interesting too, because I've been noticing a lot of gun-grabbing stories coming out of, like, veterans. Like, the government's looking to take guns away from veterans in particular.
And then veterans becoming police officers.
Right. It's all very interesting. We've got more gun news, plus Muslims march on an embassy. Peace News Now. I don't know. That's not inflammatory.
You say Muslims march on an embassy, and it sounds like Benghazi all over again.
Whoops. Yeah. Well, I was trying to make it sound like, what? So that people
that's cool.
Pay attention to it. I'm reading this story now.
That.
Is there a video? There is.
I can't get that link. I can't get that link to open properly. I took a screenshot, and so I was able to read it in Photoshop, but I can't interact with it at all. Oh, this is just Muslims on Hajj.
Wow, that looks fun.
It's interesting. It's kind of fun. I went on this a couple years ago.
I love large groups of people. Like, I just love being in big groups of people. They're so much fun. So that is really cool. I would want to. I don't know. There should be some atheist Hajj so that I can go do something.
Well, there's the hodgepodge to Washington D.C.
What's that?
It's I don't. The only part, huh?
I don't want to go to D.C.
Well, the idea is the only part that I remember, and this is because it's taken from. So on Hajj, you throw pebbles at this pillar, and it's supposed to be like stoning the devil. And on the hodgepodge to Washington D.C., you throw pebbles at the Washington Monument.
Oh, that's cute.
I think you walk around the Pentagon instead of because in Mecca it's a cube, and so in D.C. it's a pentagon. This is something I've heard of people doing. I don't think it's a very big group.
Well, it sounds pretty fun. Except for the part where I have to go to D.C. I don't want that.
Yeah. You might get arrested doing it now.
Might get arrested doing anything. Hey, so, yeah, well, shoot. All right, we got this story coming up, and then, what else do we have? Nothing, that's it. I'm just going to sing for the rest of the show.
Okay.
We're going to sing.
When do we go till 8 o'clock?
Whoa, what is it good for? Yeah, we go till midnight here, so I guess that's, what is that, where you are? 9?
That's 9 o'clock. Okay.
9 o'clock.
So another hour and 15 minutes?
Yeah, you don't have to be in for the whole thing. I can.
I gotta check out at 8 o'clock, I think, or whatever break is close to 8 o'clock.
That is. Well, I'm glad I'm getting the Muslim story in with you. We're gonna end on that.
Okay.
Send Davi away to the embassy.
I wish I had known about it sooner. I might have tried to go.
Really? Take some video?
Or something. I mean, I got plenty of beef with the Saudi government.
Yeah, what's your beef?
Well, you know, they slaughtered everyone who was there before them when they took over, and that sort of bothers me.
Oh, how does that make them different from anybody else?
Well, you know, I'm not saying that they're exceptional as a state. I'm just saying they're a state.
Yeah.
No, but they destroy a lot of historical stuff. Their laws are really draconian. They made it really difficult to travel there. And they're just obnoxious. I mean, they're a royal family, right? So when I was in Medina and I got to pray in the Prophet's Mosque, I showed up like 2 hours early so that I could like pray the dawn prayer in the front row.
Cool.
Right? And it starts piling up because like thousands and thousands of people are going to fill this mosque, and I'm like in the front row.
Awesome.
And then right before the prayer starts, this little door in the front opens up, and they bring out their like velvet ropes, and they rope off the first 2 rows, and the royal family comes out and prays in the front row. So all these people who have flown thousands of miles to be there, who have like gotten up early intentionally for the purpose of their one time to pray, and this is the only like night, or I guess there's multiple nights, but it's like once in a lifetime for most people to pray in this mosque, and the Saudis just like, oh no, we're gonna rope this off.
Darn.
So it's that kind of hubris, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that would piss me off. Especially because it's like one family. It's like Kardashians doing that. Like those damn Kardashians.
It is exactly like that.
All right. It's exactly like the Kardashians. Okay.
Well, except the Kardashians are at least the product of popular opinion.
Good point. Oh, whoop. We're back. Hey, we were talking about the Saudi family and how they're just like the Kardashians. Sometimes I get so wrapped up in the conversations I have with Davi that I forget I'm doing a show. Here we are talking peaceful resistance. He was telling the story about how he went to Medina and then got, I don't know, prayer blocked.
I got prayer blocked.
By the Saudi family. Oh, man. They would. So, tell us this story. What's going on? There's some Muslims marching, the Washington Times. I'll read the story. I don't think you can read it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting to it.
But I got it. So from the WashingtonTimes.com, headline, Hussein, American Muslims march on Saudi embassy to protest extremism. That's a weird thing to protest. By Rahat Hussein. He says, blaming the Saudi government for exporting extremism around the Muslim world, a cluster of American Muslim groups joined a protest at the Saudi embassy this week. Organized by the Chicago-based Al-Baqi organization, the rally was held in remembrance of a multitude of Islamic heritage sites that were destroyed by the Saudi family upon assuming power 9 decades ago. A little hard to hold a family responsible for what happened 9 decades ago.
Well, the thing is, they're still destroying holy sites. This is part and parcel to the Saudi regime, is that they essentially say visiting a graveyard is worshiping a graveyard, and so graves have become idols, and so graves must be destroyed. And so they go through and they destroy all these historical grave sites and all these shrines that have been there for thousands of years in their effort to exterminate idolatry. And they're still doing it to this day. It's not. This should say it like in the last 9 decades, not just 9 decades ago.
I guess it does say that were destroyed by the Saudi family assuming power. Yeah, I guess you're right. It should be a little corrected. So chief among them was the first ever Islamic cemetery, personally founded by Islam's Prophet Muhammad, named the Garden of Baqi. The cemetery contains numerous relatives of Muhammad as well as a large number of companions of the Prophet. So that really stinks. The Saudi government destroyed Muhammad's grave?
Well, his grave is still there because his grave has been made into a mosque. called the Masjid or the Mosque of the Prophet, and this is one of the more recent things. Is there sort of rumors or rumors of rumors that they want to destroy the Prophet's mosque, which has been there since the beginning. So yeah, there's some mention of that in the article too. That this is one of the things that they're talking about. But yeah, they just desecrate graves, and it's not like this is just like unused land or anything. These are like graves where people have built shrines, where people make like what people travel to, or they ban family members from visiting graves of their own family because they're construing it as idolatry. Like,
whoa,
it's insane.
That is really stupid. Amongst the chants were condemnations of terrorism and calls for restoration of destroyed holy sites. Well, that's kind of hard to do. Like, you should restore that thing you bombed.
Yeah, that sounds a little far-fetched to me. But
protesters attempted to hand-deliver a letter to the embassy voicing their complaints. Well, I hope it was a very strongly worded letter. However, guards for the building refused to accept the document and forbade entry into the building to do so. Muslims from approximately 15 different states attended, attempting to make a show of solidarity in opposing violent extremism. Well, that's good. I'd like to see more unity over opposing violent extremism. I think a lot of people already oppose violent extremism. Most people, including Muslims, Christians, anyone. But you know, we need to be loud about it. Like, there's plenty of things people are loud about. This should be one of them. Opposing violent extremism. Although I don't like the term extremism. That's kind of weird. It's not.
I haven't come up with a better term. Like, fundamentalist doesn't work for me because a person should just violence, opposing violence. Yeah, that's fine too.
I mean, I don't care if someone is very extreme in their beliefs. Like, that's good. Cool. I'm extreme in my beliefs. I really, really believe that property rights should be respected, and that consent is important. I am extreme in that view. But I'm not violent, and I oppose violence, not extremism. That was one of the things as a propagandist for the ACLU I was really uncomfortable with when I was fundraising for them. They would say things like the right-wing extremists want to, you know, like, take away your rights or whatever. And I was like, extremists? Come on. It's so nondescript. It's just emotional language.
It just means they're unusual.
Yes. So, okay, here's a video of what are we looking at, Dobby?
This looks like a video of Muslims performing the pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. So you can see they're dressed in these white cloths, which are supposed to be sort of symbolic of like a death shroud. And they perform prayers and they travel to Mecca, right? I did this a couple of years ago, and I actually had a lot of problems with the Saudi government while doing this. Because it was very important to me not to lie on this like religious pilgrimage. And the things that they ask you to sign to get a visa into the country say things like, I swear I will obey all of the laws of Saudi Arabia, which I couldn't sign. So
why wouldn't you follow all the laws?
Because I haven't read them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
yeah, I asked the embassy to give me a copy of all of the laws so that I could read them before I agreed to them. And they said they couldn't do that, but that they had like a 24-page document that they could give me on like the basics of Saudi law. And number one was that the Saudi government is an Islamic government, and I can't agree to that. So I couldn't sign it.
Why couldn't you agree to that?
I'm of the opinion, and I've written quite a bit on this subject, that the very concept of a state is un-Islamic, and that the concept of sort of a violent monopoly over a geographic region was not the example that Prophet Muhammad established in his lifetime, and it wasn't even the normative example throughout a lot of Islamic history, and that the concept of an Islamic state is a contradiction in terms.
Okay, I follow that. I didn't realize that.
But even if you want to take a minarchist position, the Saudi government, the Saudi family, they don't rule according to Islamic law. They came to power by force. They make up rules as they go along. The article goes into it a little bit. They're part of this ideology called Salafism or Wahhabism, which is a modern extremism. I know. Okay, so what's better than it? It's a modern violent ideology, and it was established through violence, and it was established through the backing of Western countries for political purposes. And it's not a government established on any sort of Islamic principle other than the window dressing.
I agree with that. So before we lose you at the end of this segment, tell us about what is wrong with the activism of going into supermarkets and pulling things off the shelves and leaving them there.
Oh yeah, so you guys talked about this on the Freedom Fiends yesterday, and I was talking about how I've worked with pro-Palestinian activist groups here in California, and one of the things that they do is, or one of the things that they did at least a couple of years ago, was they would go into a grocery store, find Israeli products, purchase them, and then walk them out of the store, walk them back into the store, and then return them. And the reason was because the policy of that grocery store was once an item has left the store, they can't put it back on the shelf. And so it was a way of sending all Israeli products back to the manufacturer. And I was sort of two minds about this, but I was ambivalent enough about it that I couldn't participate. And it was that it seems fraudulent to purchase a thing with the intent on returning it. Like, it seems like part of this agreement is that you're purchasing it because you want it. But at the same time, it's like that's the store's policy. You're not breaking any of their rules. So like the lawyer in me says, well, you're abiding by the letter of the agreement, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like if you were playing some game, you would be like, haha, I win. I got the game. But this isn't a game. This is like actual people's livelihood, and you're doing a bad thing. So like, look at the consequences. It's not just like some isolated game. Well, we're gonna lose Davi now, but it was a lot of fun chilling with you, man. Thanks for joining us on PeaceNewsNow. You can check out Davi's websites. He's got a million of them.
Just go to DaviBarker.com. They're all there.
DaviBarker.com. That's a good idea. Have them all listed there. It's like a portal into the world of the Muslim agorist. We will return with stories about gun-grabbing liberals and Muslims marching on embassies and some other stuff.
Are you?
It was just vague enough to work. Well, thank you, Davi. Always appreciate you. And,
thanks for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to go find some more stories to share with the good people.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Catch you later. Peace.
Peace.
And learn about making the move. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, Rich Paul is our first announced keynote speaker, and more are being announced now at keenvention.info. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. You can pre-order your tickets now for just $60 at keenvention.info, or you can pay with Bitcoin. Visit keenvention.info for more information and to lock in your tickets at the pre-order $60 price for the whole weekend. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, August 12th, 2014. Silver is trading at $20.13 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,314 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $570. Antiwar.com reports the latest ceasefire in the Gaza Strip has been holding, and Egyptian officials are reporting that the two sides have made great progress towards a final peace settlement, terming the talks 95% there. According to the Egyptian media, the deal will expand the Gaza fishing zone, see Israel re-releasing the traded prisoners they have re-arrested during the current war, and opening border crossings with EU observers. The Gaza-Egypt crossing would be opened under Palestinian Authority control, which Hamas has publicly agreed to. Israeli officials were pushing the Palestinian Authority control over the crossing as a way of giving Fatah more control over the Strip, with an eye toward them retaking the Strip from Hamas outright. The only issue yet to be addressed is that Israel has refused to discuss the possibility of opening a Gaza seaport under UN control, nor reopening the Gaza International Airport under UN auspices. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. The LA Times reports the mother of Michael Brown, the unarmed 18-year-old fatally shot by a police officer in suburban St. Louis, sparking a night of rioting, pled with outraged residents Monday to keep the peace because Michael would not have wanted violence. Leslie McSpadden, Brown's mother, held up a photo of her son who had just graduated from high school and was to have started college yesterday. She said, crying, "Instead of celebrating, we got to plan a funeral. We didn't deserve that. Our child, he didn't deserve none of that." She spoke out against the mayhem that took place in Ferguson, flanked by her attorney and NAACP leader. She said, "We're going to do this right. We don't want violence." Michael Brown Sr. described his son as funny, silly, he would make you laugh. Brown said his son, who wanted to be a heating and cooling engineer, didn't deserve none of this. We need justice for our son. Cornell William Brooks, the president of the NAACP, joined Brown's family at a church in nearby Jennings and said the civil rights organization was committed to the Brown family and urged residents to keep the peace. Brooks said, "Over the past few days, we have seen young people giving in to violence. Note the man whose rage is in your heart. Note that he was nonviolent. Honor his memory by seeking justice nonviolently." The calls for calm came as another vigil was expected to unfold Monday night in Ferguson, where police have called in reinforcements from other departments. A vigil Sunday degenerated into violence when protesters turned their anger on businesses and broke windows, vandalized and looted about 12 stores. A convenience store was burned. About 32 people were arrested and 2 police officers were injured. ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.fppradio.com. Antiwar.com reports they've been saying it off and on for months now, but NATO once again claimed that a Russian military invasion of Ukraine was likely and that the planned aid convoy meant a high probability of an invasion. Russian officials have repeatedly insisted that they are not considering military action, but with 1 million civilians displaced by the fighting there, they have urged the UN to do something about the humanitarian crisis. The number of Russian troops near the Ukrainian border varies wildly depending on what one considers border areas, but Ukraine, which often shoots for the high end, claimed Russia had 45,000 troops in the area, including 160 tanks. The U.S. in particular has maintained that any Russian humanitarian aid to Ukraine would be a backdoor invasion, apparently echoing the way several recent U.S. military interventions have begun. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
The victims of a devastating tornado expressed gratitude that The Onion's 3-part series on the disaster was reported with fairness, accuracy, and an unusual degree of sensitivity. Survivors said they were at least thankful for one thing, that The Onion put much more care and insight into their reporting of the tragedy than any competing newspaper, by far. In economic news, a Pulitzer Prize would very much help certain newspapers increase their circulation, resulting in greater ad sales and more revenue to pay their tireless, hardworking reporters, all of whom have families at home to care for. In other headlines, a group known as Americans for Fairness in Awarding Journalism Prizes is asking all Americans to help The Onion receive a Pulitzer Prize. An anonymous man says he will murder 50 innocent people if The Onion is not awarded a Pulitzer. And look at it. It's beautiful. Look, just give us a Pulitzer already, okay? This is humiliating. For more prize-worthy stories and videos, go to theonion.com/review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back to the top of the hour here at Peace News. Now we are live in Keene in the Shire this Tuesday, August 12th, 2014. It's 11 p.m. here. Oh, but when you're cool, the sun shines on you 24 hours a day. Criminalizing Americans for government profit is the headline at CaseyResearch.com by contributing editor Doug French. And I think this really encapsulates what Davi and I were talking about in the last hour, that basically everything is illegal. You are owned by the government. See, they've kept this a secret for as long as they possibly could, but now the cat's out of the bag because the empire is collapsing. And they need your money. They want every last bit of it in their scramble for regaining composure as the empire collapses. But here, this is an instructive article from Doug French. Let's get into it. Forget protecting and serving. We're all potential bad guys in the eyes of the law that looks to jail us, fine us, and seize our property for profit. Retired LAPD Deputy Chief of Police Stephen Downing told Fox News Latino, quote, "The federal government has turned policing into policing for profit. Cops are tracking down cash rather than crime." Downing told Fox that departments now direct police assets to generate cash instead of investigating murders and rapes. And there are plenty of abstruse laws to trip up even the most careful citizen. The American Bar Association Task Force reported that the body of federal crime is so large, quote, that there is no conveniently accessible complete list of federal crimes. Columbia law professor John Coffey estimates the federal government has the criminal process at its disposal to enforce as many as 300,000 federal regulations. In his introduction to One Nation Under Arrest, Edwin Meese III writes, quote, "It's only a slight exaggeration to say that potentially everything you do each day is subject to criminal law. Driving, shopping, gardening, and even, yes, eating." In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, James L. Buckley, one of the very few men to have served in all three branches of government, noted that the U.S. Code, the entire body of federal statutory law, has gone from one volume before the New Deal to 33 or 34 volumes by 2012 edition, which is still being printed. But that's only the tip of the regulatory iceberg. There are now 235 volumes of regulations that occupy 17 feet of shelf space of 6-point or 7-point type. You know what that looks like? It's like the tiny Bible printing. 235 volumes of regulations that occupy 17 feet of shelf space. He points out, quote, "You can find yourself in jail for violating a statute you would never have any reason to know existed." And just as Davi pointed out, he couldn't, with full knowledge, consent to obeying all of the rules of Saudi Arabia because he hasn't read them all. Have you read all of the U.S. Code? Impossible. The slide into the morass of incomprehensible rules began when the Supreme Court ruling multiple times that convictions need not be supported by criminal intent or a guilty mind. Clueless Americans can now be fined or jailed for activities they have no idea are unlawful, and eager regulators are quick to entrap honest people to achieve goals to set to justify government's existence, which is what's happening to a woman out of Philadelphia. She bought a gun to defend herself after being the victim of a robbery. Purchased a handgun and some bullets, all totally legal, had a concealed carry license in Pennsylvania, took a trip over to Atlantic City for her son's birthday party, and she was too honest with the officer who pulled her over, told him he had a gun, told him that she had a gun, and into jail she went. Now, take for instance the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA, which has a target on small stock brokerage firms. At Freedom Fest in Las Vegas a few weeks ago, I spoke with two brokers who complained about the FINRA cops. One who owns his own firm but is being forced to leave the business because FINRA's proposed fine for ticky-tacky paperwork irregularities is more than what his firm is worth. The fine for paperwork irregularities is more than the whole firm is worth. The destructive path of government regulators it just boggles my mind. Another gentleman who works for the larger, think about all of the companies, all of the innovation that has been stifled by these monsters who are just rule followers. They're just obsessed with rules. I like rules too. Don't get me wrong. Like, as an anarchist, a lot of people confuse that. They say, "Oh, you don't want any rules." No, I do want rules. I want rules that I can follow, that everyone can follow, that we can know what they are. These rules are not rules at all. When no one knows what they are, you can't even look them up. That's not a rule. Yeah, you might be written on paper somewhere. You might be able. Have you ever been in this situation where the cop detains you? I know I've been in this situation many times. Cops will detain a person, then they'll say, like, "Stay there." They'll hold you in the back of the police car, or they'll just keep you where you are in handcuffs, while they open up a big book of laws. Let me flip through this big book of laws here. Let's see. Oh, yep. Oh, yeah, it looks like he violated that one. Yeah, disorderly conduct. That'll fit. Let's go with that one. Or disobeying an officer. Yeah, that'll work. Or how about the resisting arrest charge with no other charge, right? Ridiculous. Okay, eventually, which is essentially saying you can't resist your unlawful kidnapping. Another gentleman who works for a larger firm told me, the author of this article, that FINRA regulators do not respond to complaints as much as creating complaints to respond to. He related stories of regulators cold calling brokerage clients who got rattled when a government gumshoe grills them over the phone. Eventually, a customer gives the regulator enough of a reason to pursue the customer's firm, and the next day, FINRA storms in, announced that a complaint has been filed, and demands reams of paperwork. When the broker reasonably asked, "Who complained? Let me take care of it," the FINRA cop refused to tell him and begin their investigation in searching for assessing a fat fine. I've been fighting with FINRA for years in some of the same ways as an organized crime group, says John Busacca, founder of the Securities Industry Professional Association. It's like paying protection money in Bensonhurst. Busacca believes the large firm gets a pass from FINRA while FINRA focuses on harassing small firms. Well, isn't that just totally predictable? Who's going to be their moneymaker? The big guys, they pay off the bribes. The small guys, they go out of business. I don't need to finish this article. We get it. We get the point. Here, here's one last example. A New Jersey man, George Reeby, was not arrested, but his cash was. No, it's not illegal to carry cash. Again, it's what the cash is being used for to facilitate, or what it's being used for. That's the reason that the cash can be taken. Officer Bates seized 22 grand. Oh my gosh. After an insurance adjuster was carrying 22 grand with him to make an auto purchase when he was stopped by Officer Larry Bates for speeding. Well, stopped for speeding? I'm going to take your 22 grand. Do I have to tell you why? No, I don't. Do I have to charge you with a crime? No, I don't. I can just take your money, and that's justice in the U.S. of A. Crazy, and I don't want it to stay that way. We got to do something about that. Hopefully, bringing attention to these issues is step one in the process. Step two is disobeying these thugs. Peacefully, of course. But don't hand over your money. Don't comply with them. And at times, you know, what can you do? You look out into the world and see, okay, this guy got 22 grand stolen. Find another way to deal. Maybe in Bitcoin. The cops can't steal your Bitcoin. Speaking of that, we got some Bitcoin news coming up. Stay tuned.
Shiny badge. This is Dobby Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and I just want to personally apologize for airing a jingle week after week, month after month, that turned out to be such an infectious brainworm. So to make it up to you, I'm offering a free gift. The next time you make a purchase at ShinyBadges.com, write worms in the transaction comments, and I'll send you something weird.
It's the Onion Radio News. Raccoon leaders call for the loosening of garbage can lids. This is Doyle Redland reporting. In a 4 a.m. speech at the group's annual Washington, D.C. convention this morning, North American Raccoon Federation President Bristletail called upon homeowners to loosen the lids of their garbage cans, providing the ring-tailed mammals with greater access to discarded food scraps during nocturnal scavenging.
Every time you seal a standard 30-gallon garbage can, as many as 6 raccoons are forced to go without their necessary daily supply of congealed baked beans, rancid cottage cheese chunks, and moldy cantaloupe rinds.
The 26-pound varmint closed his speech with a stern warning that without raccoons, possums could take over the world. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network. Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com. Do you love coffee as much as I love coffee? Here's a delicious way to drink the best of the best coffee and make a difference 1 cup at a time. We've partnered with Camano Island Coffee Roasters to offer BuzzBox coffee, and you can try a pound for free. All you do is cover shipping. It's organic, shade-grown, top 1% Arabica grade. 10% of future purchases help our efforts to give the gift of human freedom through at least 100 microloans via World Vision. For more information, go to coffee.freetalklive.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
You can interact with other LRN listeners on our message board at forum.lrn.fm. That's forum.lrn.fm.
So good news out of Ferguson, Missouri. I mentioned earlier about the tragic death of 18-year-old Michael Brown, but following that, there was some looting going on in the streets. No, that's not the good news. That's unfortunate. I hate to hear of stories of looting, especially after a tragedy like that. It shows that people just aren't ready for freedom yet. That's really sad for me to say. But that's true. For the most part, people are not ready for freedom. They've been trained to act like animals and like slaves, and that's what plays out in reality. So here we are showing a screen cap. These employees are acting different. So this is the good news is that there are armed store owners who are protecting their property, and unfortunately the headline uses the word anarchy, stopped anarchy from destroying their store. Well, I would say that the anarchy is what's pictured here with the police in their riot gear, and or no, that's not the anarchy. Anarchy is like respect for property rights. Anarchy would be peaceful negotiation and respect for property, but no, the chaos is these police in their riot gear with billy clubs hitting people and causing the looting. So, okay, for a story from westernjournalism.com. As surrounding neighborhoods devolved into a free-for-all, a group of locals banded together in front of a Ferguson, Missouri convenience store this weekend to protect it against roving bands of looters. A Twitter post by Riverfront Times staff writer Ray Downs, including an image of makeshift security forces stationed in front of the business Saturday. So check it out. These Ray Downs writes on Twitter, "These guys are guarding their store in between lots of looting. Some poor dude tried to buy liquor, but it's past 12. That's so weird. Why didn't they just let him buy liquor? Walgreens probably won't get looted either. Wow, look at all these people defending Walgreens. So weird. Are they? Do they work there? Why are they there? Do they have anything at stake? And it looks like there's some police officers there. But anyway, that's a good story of look, arms can defend people. Here's a video of a beauty shop that was looted. You can hear the alarms going off. People robbing the store. Crazy, man, crazy. I don't want to be there. That looks horrible. This photo taken before rioting, a woman told me she thought cops exacerbated the situation with a big show of force. Gee, you think? That's never happened before. At least one convenience store was reported was burned to the ground by angry protesters. Yikes. So scary, and a situation in which I would want to have a gun. Speaking of poor Mike Brown, who was gunned down in Ferguson, Missouri, we have another tragic tale of an unarmed black man killed by police in southern LA on the heels of the Mike Brown tragedy. This from UptownMagazine.com. Another black man has been shot and killed by police. The 24-year-old man succumbed to gun injuries after an encounter with police in South LA. The incident happened Monday evening, shortly after a shooting was reported at the intersection of West 65th Street and South Broadway. The LAPD stopped a man 200 blocks north of the 65th block when things took a dangerous turn. According to the police statement, officers opened fire after, quote, a struggle ensued. Oh, interesting. Isn't that always what they say? Isn't that what they said about Michael Brown? But we haven't seen any evidence of that, have we? The man, who was later identified as Ezell Ford, was then transported to the nearest hospital where he underwent surgery but later died. Ford is one of countless victims who have recently died at the hands of police, who are to protect and serve the community. Was Ford killed for simply being a young African-American male, the very same characteristics that claimed the lives of John Crawford and Mike Brown earlier this week? The mother of the victim said her son was lying on the ground and obeying officers' commands when he was shot. Multiple reports indicate that he was unarmed. Further details on the shooting is underway and will be investigated by, oh, you guessed it, the LAPD. Yep, they're going to investigate their own murder. Wonder what they'll find. The LAPD is currently being sued by Marlene Pinnock, a homeless woman whose vicious beating at the hands of a still unidentified officer was caught on tape. Her lawsuit alleges excessive force, assault, and battery. Well, it's tragic to cover stories like that, but it's important to remember that this is stuff that happens every day. And, you know, of course, the mainstream media will tell you, you got to watch out for terrorists. We need to be concerned about terrorists and those illegal immigrants and the economy and those people who have guns and returning veterans. There's a lot to be afraid of, says the mainstream media, but it's not cops. No, don't be afraid of police. They're your friendly neighborhood Andy Griffith. They wouldn't be shooting black men left and right in the streets who are unarmed every day. That wouldn't be happening. Nope, it is happening. That's what we're reporting on here. And, you know, if you're going to be one of those cop apologists, oh, it's just a few bad apples, well, then I challenge you to find a cop who's arrested another officer for committing a crime like this. I mean, that's murder. It's clearly murder when you gun down someone who's unarmed. They're laying on the ground. Let's see some cuffs come out. Let's see the officers put the other officers in cuffs. All right? It's time for that. It's not. I'm not suggesting violence. I'm not suggesting that police be injured in any way. Just restrain them when they're killing people. Is that so? Is that too much to ask? So in a statement, this is from Ars Technica, where fortunately things are taking a turn for more accountability as technology empowers the individual. We see more people using video cameras from their cell phones. They're uploading them to the internet, and they are taking personal responsibility for their own lives, for their own independence, for accountability for these officers. So this, out of ArsTechnica.com, reported yesterday, big news. Judge affirms probationer has a right to tape police officer in her home. Well, of course she does. It's her home. She has a right to tape the police. But this is a big news that a judge actually defends this. The judge says when police search a home, recording their actions is even more important. From Ars Technica, reading, in a statement of findings and recommendations filed last week, a U.S. magistrate judge for the Eastern District of California affirmed that a woman on searchable probation had the right to videotape 3 officers who came to her home to search it. In February 2011, plaintiff Mary Crago was visited by 3 police officers, including defendant Officer Kenneth Leonard. Leonard was working on the Sacramento Police Department's Metal Theft Task Force, and he was tipped off that Crago had been involved in a theft involving a vehicle battery. Since Crago was on searchable probation, the officers entered her home. The door was open, and they found Crago, quote, sitting on a mattress, digging furiously through a purse. What do you think she was doing? I have a guess. According to the court documents, inside the purse, the defendant found a 4-inch glass pipe and a small baggie with white residue. Uh-oh. That's not what I thought it was. I thought she was going to pull out a camera. Uh-oh. What's that white residue? We'll find out on the other end of this. You're listening to Peace News Now.
The warning signs.
First, he made me feel special. He promised he'd look after me, provide for my future. He broke every promise he made.
Millions of Americans afflicted.
I was ready to leave, but he told me he'd change. So I gave him another chance. I was such a fool.
The consequences.
Things only got worse. He started making my decisions for me. About my job, my kids' education, my money, my safety, my future. He took away my choices, but I kept going back to the same politicians.
The diagnosis? Battered voter syndrome.
I fell for the same old lies. They were just playing with my emotions, telling me what I wanted to hear. That's not right.
Stop the insanity of voting for the same old abusers. Declare your independence from the two-party system and join the New Hampshire Liberty Party today at nhliberty.info. Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victimless crimes in relation to allegedly operating the Bitcoin-based Silk Road black market. He has been in a prison cell awaiting trial ever since. If he did it, he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. If he did not, he's a man wrongfully accused. Either way, if you love freedom and want to end the war on drugs, Ross and his family need your support. You can learn more and help fund his defense at freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm. On your knees, you dirty hippie!
On your knees, you dirty hippie.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, that's right, network. So, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, that's off the cacophonous James DeWitt calling Derek J. You can
Yes.
call me any color you like, by the way. All I ask is you let me tell the truth, and all I ask is you tell the truth and let me give me my opinion, and we're all good.
That's cool. Let me be honest and say I wasn't sure if I was going to take your call tonight because I let you call in all the time, and I like that. I like that you call in because I like the engagement and the disagreement. But you know, I don't want to be like one-trick pony here. You know, we gotta take a break on these every once in a while.
Okay, that's fine with me. But the funny thing is, you're on the public airwaves every day.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're a one-trick pony. And I certainly don't call in. I just call in to hopefully make you laugh and make you think a second time.
You do. I'm not calling you a one-trick pony. I'm saying like this arrangement that we have, this like you calling at the end of the show and me taking the call and us having this conversation. We gotta like move it around, or I mean maybe it's like a work schedule thing or something. But we gotta introduce some variety to this. That's all.
I am a creature of habit, Derek J, and I certainly didn't call in last hour because you had a guest.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, I dig that. Well, anyway, you're going to be on for this segment, right?
Did you get my instant message, by the way?
No. Where would I find that?
My bad about last night, by the way. But
about last night?
Well,
freaked me out, man. I don't know if it was just because I was on low sleep.
No worries. It's my bad. I just wanted to say that I did use another form of instant messaging to you. Perhaps it doesn't follow through, but because I did think it was ironic. You had a barrage of callers, Derek J.
Yeah.
And I understand why you dumped my call because I was referencing things that your listeners would not have known what I was talking about.
Exactly.
But then three calls in a row, back to back to back.
Yeah.
Skeeter, Nathan,
right.
and
That was
Michael
tough.
all referenced me.
That's right.
By name.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
So they knew what the hell.
This is Peace News Now, and we're taking your calls. You can dial in and take control, 443-424-8347, or Skype us, Peace News Now. Yep, if you caught the beginning of that segment, I forgot to mute in time. You heard the voice of James in Arizona. What's up, James?
Creature of habit.
That's right. We're here again. It's Tuesday night, and you're calling into Peace News Now.
Regarding a local tragedy gone local, national news, respectfully, Derek J, like the criminal fraud race hustler, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
I like that.
You anti-statist activists like Anonymous seem to live for this type of story of cop killers. Care to?
I don't know what you're talking about. Was there a cop killer?
No, I called the guy that the story out of Missouri.
Oh, okay. Right.
And I'll call him a cop killer because he did kill somebody. Killer cop, then, I should say.
Oh, yeah. Right, I get it. I was a little confused.
Because that race hustler is going to show up on the scene and act like the whole world's out to get black people, which it's not.
That was weird. I hate seeing Al Sharpton doing anything, pretty much. And I like your name for him, Charlatan. Because, he's just some like media-hungry personality. He has no real convictions, and he's takes advantage of people's emotional state and their own inherent racism to say like, oh, this was a racial thing. I mean, what evidence do we have that this was a racial thing at all? We don't know the identity of the officer involved in the shooting. He's just assuming, and I think it makes a person even more racist to assume that there were racist intentions in a murder.
Well, my point is, Derek J, again respectfully, is this is a local news story, a tragedy. But if it turns out the cop that killed this kid is a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, it's still a local story to me, and as it should be to you. I'm respectfully saying to you that, but you and your network talked a lot about it today, but I'm trying to refrain from referring to other stations, other network hosts, even though it's called the Liberty Radio Network, and you're all on the same team, and you all co-host each other's shows.
Yeah, I don't give enough plugs to the other networks, but this show airs on a few other networks. Freedom's Phalanx.
Right, we know.
Yeah.
And Genesis, that's ironically how I found you, because I absolutely despise this afterbirther 9/11 untruuther phony minister that's on one of your other shows, is on your another
Alex Jones?
network. No, I don't think I've never listened to that piece of white trash, but he's.
I don't know. He's got some good stuff.
No, I won't mention the phony
Anyway,
minister.
why don't you think it's important to talk about Michael Brown? You don't think that's a national story?
No, absolutely not.
Here's why I think it is. Because people are quick, like the mainstream media will say, terrorists, you have to watch out for terrorists, you have to give up your freedoms because terrorists. But then they won't, in the same segment, say, you're 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than a terrorist.
Eric J., I know you're a really, really smart guy.
Yeah.
You know what a non sequitur is?
Why is that a non sequitur?
They have nothing to do with each other. Absolutely, those two things have absolutely nothing to do. And nor am I'm not just incriminating you. Respectfully, again, I'm incriminating the national news media that lives for ambulance chases gone awry or car chases gone wrecked. They live for that. Like I was asking outright.
Yeah.
You seem to live for this Shiite, and I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just trying to get you to think a second time about. Don't play their game either.
What's their game? Do you think I'm playing into their hand by talking about the story?
You're doing the same thing. Again, I'm just making an opinion of that.
Well, I don't want to collectivize. Like, I try and point out when other activists are collectivizing, even about police, when they say, like, well, cops always blah, blah, blah. And I'll catch myself doing that on occasion. But what I really want to do is hold individuals accountable for their actions. So, like,
we both agree with that.
Well, why don't we have a name for this guy who shot Michael Brown?
I called him a cop killer. I should have reversed. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a name. We don't know his name yet.
I'm not going to defend the procedures that cops have, the presumption of innocence above and beyond, like you likened on other stories, that you're correct, that they have the presumption of innocence that we, as citizens that are supposed to be equal in the eyes of the laws, don't. His name is, yes, being kept secret for the time being. It's not like it's not going to come out. But, again...
Yeah, but by that point, all the moral outrage will be over. All the people rioting and all the people following the story are going to be like, wait, what? Who's Michael Brown? Right, well... Justice is slow in the United States of America. That's an unfortunate thing, and it's because we're overpopulated by lawyers and law schools that turn out freaking new lawyers like McDonald's does Big Macs, and it has entirely corrupted our law system, our judicial system, because, well, I mean, I don't want to go on about that. Yeah, we know. Lawyers, man.
But may I say something real quick, then, about speaking of guns?
Yeah.
And your fellow LRN host.
Yeah.
Because it is fascinating to me that I've been branded. Sorry for...
I don't mind you bringing up names. I don't know if you're just doing that to self-restrain or you think that
no, well, I've been branded pro-war, pro-murder, and not a libertarian in your presence.
Yes.
By other hosts.
Yes.
But I find it fascinating that a bunch of peaceful people, that you guys declare yourself as such, I literally have no interest in guns.
Yeah.
And ironically, speaking of somebody that's a man in the middle between you and I, that literally in your presence yesterday basically professed that he never wants to be my friend and all that, I'm just fine with that. Feelings mutual. But my point is, ironically, in this small planet that we live in, and I've lived all over this gigantic valley of the sun of Phoenix, I've fired guns twice in my life. The neighbor across the street was my age, and we were best friends for years. I drove out into the middle of the desert in like 1995 and got to fire off, I think it was a Glock,
Cool.
in the middle of nowhere.
Did you like it?
15 years, well, it's the power that a gun gives one is like a cheap thrill. Just like that's why I don't waste my money, and I find it grotesque to me to go to a stripper bar. Yeah, I'll sport wood instantly, but it's a cheap thrill, and it's not something that I care for being manipulated.
Yeah, but you know that gun owners, not all of them, some of them sure, but not all of them have guns for cheap thrills. I mean, there's
I agree with that.
legitimate...
No, the buddy I had was a member of the armed services and a whatever you call this, expert shooters, sniper, or whatever the hell.
He was a good shooter.
It doesn't matter. Ironically, 15 years later, I had another neighbor of the same age in an entirely different part of the valley that I met while walking my dog in the middle of the night, and we became friends. I went up in the hills and the mountains and shot with him. The irony is, I kid you not, those two people had the same mutual best friend, and they all went to school together.
Sheriff Joe.
In high school. No, God, no. 3 people my age.
Oh, okay.
There's 4 of us. 2 of them I've shot their guns. They have a mutual best friend. They're all from high school, and they never hung out with each other as a three-peat, as 3 amigos, because the mutual best friend they had, the 2 on the outside that I shot their guns with, they didn't like each other because one was a partier and the other was a drinker. And
So what? So you shot guns
I'm
with
just
3
saying
guys.
that. Irony is I've shot 2 guns in my life with 2 dudes that were best friends with another dude.
Yeah.
And it's totally independent of, didn't meet them for 15 years apart. And the reason why I met, whatever. The reason why I found out they were best friends in high school is another
What's your point, though? I don't get it. You're telling me a story about how you went shooting with some guys. Normally you're on point.
I just thought that personal story is amazing to me because I have no interest in guns, but I'm pro-murder, pro-war, and all that.
Well, you are pro-murder and pro-war. I have to hold your feet to the fire on that one, James.
Okay, right.
No, you are.
So if you shot a guy in self-defense, you're a murderer or a killer?
I don't know.
You're a killer, but that doesn't make you a murderer.
That's something I got to think about more. I appreciate your call. I wish we had more time for that one. I'm going to end this, though.
You need to think about that more, but I'm not branding you a murderer for shooting in self-defense. I'm branding you a killer, which I don't have any problem with.
Fortunately, I've never shot at anyone.
Thanks for taking me out.
Yep.
Americans are reeling from Obamacare, higher prices, and an epidemic of policy lapses. AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com has you covered. World-class medical and surgery at one of Asia's most modern hospitals. 300 doctors, surgeons, and dentists serving 300,000 patients a year. Fractions of U.S. prices. Friends or family forced to go out of pocket? Avoid bankruptcy. Tell them to run. Run like hell. Hit us up now. We'll show you how. AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict, or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government waged wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
Hi, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. The internet has lowered the cost barrier for a worldwide radio show to a price approaching zero. Yet there is one arena where you still need thousands of dollars to approach the audio quality of the corporate media. Doing a live spoken show with more than one host in different geographic locations. Our program, Fiend Phone, will solve that problem, and it will be given away free. Go to fiendphone.com to see what you can do to help. That's FEENPHONE.com.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
You know how annoying it is when someone keeps stopping mid-sentence as though he or she were asking you a series of questions? Avoid doing that. It sounds unnervingly tentative, and it imposes upon the listener to help you complete the thought. And if you're a job seeker, this alone could be a deal killer. An effective communicator sounds more confident. Complete the thought. Avoid making the listener impatient. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook. Survivalspeech.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Final segment of the show. You can call in and share your thoughts like James did. 443-424-8347 is our Hi-Fi CivDisc call-in line, or Skype Peace News Now. But we've only got a few minutes remaining. I want to finish this story about this woman who was in her home on probation when the police come in searching, and she's got a small baggie and a 4-inch glass pipe. With some white residue. The white residue subsequently tested positive for methamphetamine, according to court documents. But this woman, Crago, did not resist the officer's search, but she allegedly told Leonard, the police officer searching her, that she was recording the search on her laptop. So you can picture she's holding up her laptop like, damn it, I gotta find some kind of video camera here. She doesn't have a normal video camera, probably doesn't have a smartphone, but she has a laptop that has a webcam on it. So again, technology steps in to save the day, plus people willing to use it. She carries her laptop, says, "I'm recording you." The cop then took her laptop and deleted her recording, telling her that recording was forbidden. Crago then sued, saying her right to record police in her home was protected by the First Amendment. Well, the judge agreed, and bing, bang, boom, the magistrate came down in favor of Crago. The location of where the video recording was being made was the plaintiff's place of residence. If a plaintiff has a clearly established constitutional right to record from a public place where the plaintiff has the lawful right to be, a plaintiff surely has a right to in her own home. Simply, there is no principled basis upon which to find that although the right to record officers conducting their official duties only extends to duties performed in public, the right does not extend to those performed in private residence. That's ridiculous. So further, there is no reason to believe that the plaintiff's status as a probationer would diminish the public's interest in how police exercise their authority in a private citizen's home. So this cop, making up rules as he goes along, boom, got caught. Love to see stories like that. You know why? Because it's cameras that are keeping people safe. Where's your camera? Is it within arm's reach right now? Would you be able to protect yourself if some armed intruder, maybe with a badge, maybe without, came in? Have your camera just as ready as your gun. I think the camera is a lot more useful. You're not going to use a gun against a police officer, at least I hope not. or an armed intruder. I mean, against anyone really. Like, the cameras are the way to go. Have surveillance video. Protect yourself. All right. Save this story for last because it is the best story of the week. Illegal spying below. Activists fly anti-surveillance airship over the NSA's Utah data center. To celebrate the 4th of July, the Electronic Frontier Foundation teamed up with Greenpeace and the 10th Amendment Center to launch an airship. Yes, you read that correctly. Over the NSA's sprawling data center in Utah. Acclaimed filmmaker Brian Knappenberger documented their campaign with a short, powerful video. Take a look. It's estimated that the facility could collect and store at least 12,000 petabytes of data, or the text of more than 300,000 copies of every book ever published.
The Utah Data Center is a building that the NSA has been constructing for a number of years to store the data that they're collecting. From what we can tell, this thing is enormous. It is over 1 million square feet, 100,000 of which are going to be data center storage facilities. The Snowden documents that came out last summer showed that the NSA is sucking up millions of phone records of Americans who aren't suspected of any crime. They're also vacuuming up the internet communications of people all over the world. And this is added to a trove of data we've been collecting over the years. Other whistleblowers who have come forward, people like Bill Binney, Thomas Drake, and Mark Klein, all of whom have said that the NSA is surveilling far more information than we, the public, were led to believe.
They've built it. They intend to use it. They're trying to use it. They're having a difficult time using it. The Wall Street Journal reported last fall that they were experiencing meltdowns. We know they need a lot of water. It's this big eyesore in the desert in this small community that tells us, look, we are here and we are collecting information on you, whether you want us to or not.
Okay, I can move you now. That's pretty good.
Greenpeace, a big part of what we're doing when we do our protests, our direct actions, is to bear witness. Bearing witness to the crimes that are going on or the things we need to change. The protest that we're planning right now is to really draw attention to this exists.
We are launching an airship over the NSA data center with a big banner.
It's what's called a hot air airship, so it's kind of a hybrid between a hot air balloon and a blimp. So it's going to Salt Lake City. It's going to be flying above the NSA data center just south of Salt Lake City.
We felt like this was a way to showcase the palpable realities of surveillance gone awry, of government that's just completely out of touch.
StandAgainstSpying.org, isn't that right?
Yep. This action has weeks of planning beforehand. We have to come up with the design, we have to build the banner, and then we have to physically drive the airship out to Utah. There's so many unknowns here. First of all, is the weather going to cooperate? It's going to be very cold. It's going to be very early in the morning. It's going to be physically difficult.
Load up, head on out.
We really only have one chance to get this right.
Unfortunately, Greenpeace has experienced firsthand the targeting by governments to try to stop our protest activity. The most extreme example was what happened with the first Rainbow Warrior when it was tracked by the French government and bombed in New Zealand and cost the life of one of our photographers there.
Alright, so let's go and pull this out. We're going to pull this out and then pull it off to that side.
It shows the extent that protest groups are often targeted by governments.
Warrantless surveillance has been used to infiltrate dissidents, protesters for years. Anti-war protesters, the people at antiwar.com found out that they've been under surveillance for many, many years. In other words, if you oppose the policies of the state, you could be a target, and who knows how they'll use that information.
Now my honor to sign into law the USA Patriot Act of 2001.
The Patriot Act was passed right after 9/11. America was shell-shocked. We passed it with almost no debate, and to this day we're still coming to grips with how that fundamentally changed our democracy, how it gave the government brand new powers to engage in forms of surveillance that had never existed before. Now we're more than 10 years after the Patriot Act was signed into law, and today we have this enormous facility being created in Utah, shrouded in secrecy. It's become almost a symbol of everything that's wrong with what the NSA is doing.
And stop.
It's government completely out of touch with what the American people want.
We'll be ready to go here in just a couple minutes.
Protesting by flying our airship over this facility is one small way we can help draw attention to this. If we don't fight for these rights, we can expect to lose them. And the politicians need to feel that this is a political liability. The president needs to hear this. Other world leaders need to hear this.
We're never going to have another chance like this.
Yeah, give it a yank.
We have everyone from the very far left to the very far right saying that this doesn't make any sense. We actually need to stop dragnet surveillance of our communications. It's bad for business, bad for civil liberties. When we think about the National Security Agency, we now know that they've spent years watching us, watching everything we do online, watching all of the telephone calls we make. And this action says we're watching you too. We've got our eyes trained on you.
Wow. There's some beautiful scenery for the
If we want
viewing
to live in
audience.
democracy, we ought to be able to know what our government is doing and have some say in it. This is a way of putting the Constitution back in the hands of the people and saying, we're going to fight for this.
Privacy watchdogs took the skies over Bluffdale today.
Activists called attention to a secret place. 100-year-old plus technology hovered above the new secretive NSA data center.
A blimp with a large sign saying illegal spying below.
Wow, such an encouraging message. These activists were able to shine a serious spotlight on what's happening with the NSA. Most mainstream news is not going to cover this event. They take direct action to the next level. This is so inspiring. Not that I'm some shill for Greenpeace. I mean, support whatever organization you want, but look at what can happen when you use your imagination and you don't ask politicians for permission. This is PeaceNewsNow. We'll be back Sunday. Hey, and thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a lot of fun. I love bringing these shows to you. If you enjoy the content that you see here, send me a donation in Bitcoin. Thanks.
Shire Free Church. You are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members